Have you ever brushed off a strange ache or sudden discomfort, thinking it's probably nothing? Maybe you didn't want to worry your family or assumed it would just go away on its own. But here's the truth. Your body often sends urgent signals when something is seriously wrong, and ignoring them could be dangerous. Today, we're talking about 7 alarming body signals you should never ignore. Signs that mean you need to get to the hospital right away. These aren't just little aches or everyday pains. These are clear warnings that your health could be in immediate danger. And as we get older, it's even more important to listen to what our bodies are telling us. Maybe you've heard stories of someone who waited too long to get help, and it made things much worse. Or maybe you've even experienced a scary moment yourself. That's why this video matters. Because knowing these warning signs could save your life or the life of someone you love. We'll walk through each signal step by step, explaining what to look for and what to do if it happens to you. And remember, when it comes to these symptoms, time is everything. Acting fast can make all the difference. So let's start with the first and one of the most critical signs: slurred speech or facial drooping. Picture this: you're sitting at the kitchen table, having your morning coffee, when suddenly your words don't come out right. Maybe your speech sounds slurred, like you're talking through thick syrup. Or perhaps you try to smile, but one side of your face doesn't quite move the way it should. These aren't just little quirks. They could be signs of a stroke, and that means every second counts. A stroke happens when blood flow to part of your brain gets cut off, and the longer it goes untreated, the more damage it can do. That's why recognizing these signs early is so important. Along with slurred speech or facial drooping, you might notice weakness in one arm, like if you try to lift it, and it just feels heavy or won't cooperate. Some people describe it as a sudden numbness, like their arm or leg fell asleep. But it doesn't go away. Now, you might think, well, maybe I'm just tired or maybe it's nothing. But here's the thing. When it comes to a stroke, assuming it's could cost you dearly. Doctors have a saying, time is brain. The faster you get help, the better your chances of recovery. So if you or someone near you shows any of these signs, even if they come and go, don't wait. Call emergency services immediately. And here's a helpful tip: remember the word fast. It's an easy way to spot a stroke. Face. Does one side droop when they try to smile? Arms. Can they raise both arms evenly? Or does one drift down? Speech. Is their speech slurred or strange? Time. If you see any of these, it's time to call for help. You know your body better than anyone. If something feels off, trust that feeling. It's always better to be safe and get checked out than to wish you'd acted sooner. Now, let's talk about another urgent warning sign. One that many people dismiss until it's too late. You're out in the garden pulling weeds, or maybe just sitting in your favorite chair when it hits. A sudden pressure in your chest. Not a sharp pain, really, more like someone's sitting on your chest. Maybe it spreads to your arm or up to your jaw. Your first thought might be, oh, it's just heartburn. Or, I must have pulled something. But what if it's not? What if your heart is literally crying out for help? This is exactly how heart attacks often start. Not with dramatic collapse like in the movies, but with this heavy, uncomfortable feeling that won't go away. And here's something important: women especially might not get that classic chest clutching pain. Instead, they might feel unusually tired, short of breath, or have discomfort in their back or stomach. That's why so many people, men and women alike, make the dangerous mistake of waiting too long. I'll tell you about my neighbor Bob. He felt that odd pressure while watching TV one evening. Figured it was indigestion from dinner and took some antacids. By morning, the pain was worse, and his wife finally insisted on the hospital. Turns out, he'd been having a heart attack for hours. The doctors said if he'd come in right away, they could have prevented much of the damage to his heart. That's the key. Heart attacks are a race against time. The faster you get treatment, the more heart muscle doctors can save. So if you feel Squeezing or heavy pressure in your chest, pain spreading to your left arm, neck, or jaw, cold sweats along with chest discomfort, unusual nausea or dizziness. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't wait and see. Call an ambulance right away. Yes, even if you're not sure. Emergency responders would much rather it be false alarm than have you risk your life by waiting. And speaking of breathing problems, our next warning sign is one that sneaks up on many people. Let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself sitting perfectly still, maybe reading the paper or watching TV, when suddenly you notice you re-breathing like you just climbed a flight of stairs? That's not normal, my friend. When you at rest, breathing should feel, well, like nothing at all. If you gasping for air while doing nothing, your body's waving a big red flag. This kind of unexplained shortness of breath can mean several serious things. It might be your heart struggling to pump blood effectively, or it could be a blood clot in your lungs, what doctors call a pulmonary embolism. Sometimes it's pneumonia setting in, especially if you've been feeling under the weather. The scary part. These conditions can go from uncomfortable to life-threatening frighteningly fast. I remember my Aunt Martha's story. She kept feeling winded just walking from her recliner to the kitchen, but she chalked it up to getting older. When she finally mentioned it to her daughter during a phone call, her daughter rushed right over and insisted on taking her to the hospital. Turned out her heart was retaining fluid, and she was in early heart failure. The doctors said another day or two could have been disastrous. Here's what to watch for. Feeling like you can't get enough air, even when resting, needing to prop yourself up with pillows, to breathe comfortably at night, a bluish tint to your lips or fingertips, any swelling in your legs along with breathing trouble, if your body is working too hard to breathe when you're not moving, that's not something to sleep on. Head to the emergency room where they can check your oxygen levels and run tests. Breathing is so fundamental we often don't think about it until we can't do it easily anymore. Now, there is another warning sign that often gets mistaken for simple forgetfulness. But it's much more serious than that. You know, we all have those senior moments, walking into a room and forgetting why we were there, or struggling to recall a name we know perfectly well. But there's a big difference between normal forgetfulness and sudden, alarming confusion. If you or someone you love suddenly can't remember what day it is, where they are, or how to do simple tasks they've done all their life, that's not just aging. That's an emergency. This kind of abrupt mental change can signal several dangerous conditions. It might be a stroke affecting the parts of your brain responsible for thinking. It could be a serious infection like sepsis, especially if there's fever involved. Sometimes it's a reaction to medications or even low oxygen levels. Whatever the cause, when the mind suddenly clouds over, it means something seriously wrong. My friend Ed told me about his wife, June. One evening she started saying strange things, asking why there were dogs in the living room. They didn't have dogs, and insisting it was morning when it was actually 8 p.m. Ed thought she was just tired, but thankfully their daughter recognized these as danger signs and rushed her to the hospital. Turned out June had a urinary tract infection that had spread to her bloodstream, something that can happen surprisingly fast to us as we get older. Watch for these warning signs. Suddenly not recognizing familiar people or places, inability to follow a simple conversation, uncharacteristic agitation or aggression, difficulty with basic tasks like dressing or using utensils, rambling or nonsensical speech. If you notice these changes in yourself or someone else, even if they come and go, don't assume it's just a bad day. Call for help immediately. The brain is too precious to take chances with. And while you're waiting for help, try to keep the person calm and safe, turn off bright lights, speak slowly and clearly, and don't leave them alone. Now, let us talk about another urgent warning sign, one that often gets dismissed as just a stomachache. Here's something you should never tough out, when your gut sends you one of those pains that makes you double over. I'm not talking about mild indigestion, or that too much chilly feeling. This is the kind of pain that comes on fast and fierce, the kind that makes you break out in a cold sweat. That's your body sounding the alarm that something's very wrong inside. This sudden, severe belly pain could be warning you about several dangerous conditions. It might be appendicitis, yes, you can get that at any age. Or it could be a bowel obstruction, especially if you're also feeling bloated and can't pass gas. Sometimes it signals internal bleeding, or even a heart attack. Yes, heart problems can show up as belly pain. The key is that when the pain is bad enough to make you groan or can't find a comfortable position, it's time to get help, not tomorrow, not after one more antacid, but right now. I'll never forget my cousin Marge's story. She developed terrible stomach pain one evening, but kept telling her husband it'll pass. By morning, she was vomiting and the pain was unbearable. At the hospital, they found her gallbladder had ruptured. The surgeon later said if she waited just a few more hours, she might not have made it. All because she didn't want to make a fuss. Here's what should send you straight to the ER. Pain so severe you can't stand up straight. Pain that starts around your belly button and moves to the lower right side, appendicitis. Belly that feels hard and tender to touch. Pain with vomiting, especially if you see bloods, which can look like coffee grounds. Pain with dizziness or fainting. And here's an important tip: if you press gently on your belly, and the pain gets much worse when you quickly release the pressure, that's a particularly dangerous sign. Doctors call rebound tenderness. It often means there's inflammation in the lining of your abdomen. Remember, our pain tolerance tends to increase as we get older, so by the time something really hurts, it's often quite serious. Try to be brave. Your belly is telling you something needs attention right away. Now, there's another digestive symptom that's always an emergency, especially when you see a particular color. Let's talk about something that should always send you straight to the hospital when you throwing up and see blood. Now, I know vomiting is never pleasant, but when you see that red or what looks like coffee grounds in it, that's your body screaming for immediate help. This isn't the time for maybe it's something I ate. This is the time to act fast. That blood you're seeing could be coming from a bleeding ulcer, a tear in your esophagus, or other serious internal bleeding. And here's something important: even if you don't see obvious red blood, vomit that looks like dark coffee grounds is just as dangerous. That's digested blood, and it means bleeding is happening somewhere in your digestive tract. The longer this goes on, the more blood you lose, and that can quickly become life-threatening. My neighbor Joe learned this the hard way. He'd been feeling nauseous for a couple days, and throwing up what he thought was just dark stuff from an upset stomach. When he finally got to the hospital, his hemoglobin was so low he needed 2 blood transfusions. Turned out he had a bleeding ulcer that could have been treated much sooner if he'd come in right away. These are the warning signs that mean emergency care: vomiting bright red bloods like fresh blood, vomiting material that looks like coffee grounds, vomiting that won't stop even after your stomach should be empty, feeling dizzy or faint along with vomiting black, tarry stools, another sign of internal bleeding. Here's something crucial to remember: if you're vomiting blood, don't take aspirin, ibuprofen, or any blood thinners. Don't try to wait it out, and please don't drive yourself to the hospital. Call an ambulance. You could lose consciousness from blood loss on the way. Your digestive system contains miles of blood vessels, and when one starts leaking, it's not something that will fix itself. Every minute counts when there's internal bleeding. Even if the vomiting stops but you saw blood, you still need emergency evaluation. Now, let's move to our final warning sign, one that might seem like just a bad flu at first, but is actually much more dangerous. Imagine waking up with the worst headache of your life. So bad that even the sunlight through your curtains feels like knives in your eyes. Your neck is so stiff you can't bend it forward, and you're burning up with fever. This isn't just a bad cold or the flu. It could be meningitis, a life-threatening infection of the brain and spinal cord. And when it comes to meningitis, waiting even a few hours can mean the difference between recovery and tragedy. Meningitis moves fast. The infection causes swelling around the brain and spinal cord, which can lead to permanent nerve damage, hearing loss, or even death if not treated immediately. Older adults are especially vulnerable because sometimes the symptoms can be less obvious. Maybe just confusion, sleepiness, or a low-grade fever at first. But when that fever spikes and your neck gets so stiff you can't touch your chin to your chest, that's your red flag. My friend's grandson, a healthy young man in his 20s, went to bed with what he thought was a migraine. By morning, he couldn't stand bright lights, his fever was raging, and he could barely move his neck. His roommate rushed him to the ER, where doctors confirmed bacterial meningitis. They said if he'd waited another day, he might not have survived. These are the warning signs you should never ignore. Sudden high fever, often over 101°F, C. Severe headache, sigh like nothing you've felt before, stiff neck, can't bend forward without pain, extreme sensitivity to lights, even room light hurts, confusion or difficulty waking up, nausea, vomiting, along with the other symptoms. If you or someone you love has fever, stiff neck, light sensitivity, do not wait. Go straight to the emergency room. Meningitis can be caused by bacteria or viruses, and while viral meningitis is often less severe, bacterial meningitis is a medical disaster in slow motion. Antibiotics need to be started immediately to prevent brain damage or worse. Let's be honest, no one wants to rush to the hospital. We've all talked ourselves out of worrying. It's probably nothing, or don't want to be a bother. But after everything we've covered today, I hope you agree, your life is worth the bother. Those 7 warning signs, whether it's slurred speech, crushing chest pain, or vomiting blood, are your body's way of shouting, "Help me now." Ignoring them could cost you everything. Here's the good news: you're now equipped to act fast. Let's recap the most critical points. Trust your instincts. If something feels shockingly wrong, even if you can't pinpoint why, it's better to get checked. Call 911 or your local emergency number for these symptoms. Don't drive yourself. Ambulances save lives because medics can start treatment on the way. Write down key medical info, medications, allergies, conditions, and keep it in your wallet or phone. In an emergency, you might not remember. Teach your loved ones these signs. Sometimes others notice we're in trouble before we do. A personal pleasure, I'll leave you with this. My Uncle Frank survived a massive heart attack because his wife recognized his indigestion was actually his arm tingling and jaw tightening. He's now chasing his grandkids around, thanks to her quick thinking. That could be you or someone you love. So promise me this: if your body sends one of these 7 alarms, you won't shrug it off, you'll act. Because your health, your stories, and your presence here matter more than you know.